There we go. Good evening, everyone. It's Pastor Anthony here with your Daily Excellence. Thank you guys so much for being here on the channel today and for being a part of our broadcast. It is May 13th, Tuesday evening, and it's 8 o'clock. So we're glad that everybody is here. And in just a few moments, we will have Greg from NyPrepper Channel be on with us in just a couple of minutes. He'll join us over and we'll begin to pick his brain about some of the things that are going on, get an update on all these different theaters going on globally. We'll talk about, of course, the newest development since the last time we spoke between Pakistan and India. We'll get into a little bit about the deals being made between Trump and the new Saudi prince that happened today. We'll get into that. We're also going to be having a discussion about this particular, this particular subject here. I'll show you. As airlines are now taking steps to ensure that they can keep flying even after a potential outbreak of nuclear war. So this is news that is breaking today. And then also, Trump warns during his address to Saudi Arabia and the Saudi prince, stating stating for Iran to drop its nuclear weapons or face maximum pressure. So we'll get into those arguments articles, I should say, not arguments, but articles as soon as we have NyPrepper on here in just a little bit. So definitely some things to take a look at. Of course, we'll if we have time, we'll get an idea of what's going on with China and Taiwan, and with Russia and the Ukraine. So lots to discuss this evening. Hopefully we'll be able to get all of those subjects tonight. Originally, we were supposed to have Steve Quayle with us this evening. However, he was not able to make it because he was having a medical procedure done today, and therefore he was not able to make it with us. So we are taking a rain check on that, and we will try at a different time to bring him here on the channel. So tonight it'll be just me, and it will be Greg from the NyPrepper Channel, but we're glad that he's going to be here with us and be able to participate. So we'll get into those things. Before we do, just a couple of things as we wait for him. If you haven't done so yet, please make sure you follow us over on Facebook. We are there. You can check us out. We did a new reel that we uploaded yesterday. We got some more fun things that are coming up over there. So check us out over on Facebook. And actually, we're live on Facebook right now. We've been broadcasting our Tuesday night lives and our Wednesday night Pastor Talks over there on Facebook. You can also check us out over on Instagram. We've been over there as well. And so we'll be continuing to post over on Instagram. We're going to start posting some clips from some of our podcasts over on Instagram as well. So make sure you guys check us out over there. Please subscribe to both of those places. We're trying to make a footprint over in the social media space. Of course, all those things are very easy for you guys to go and share with your friends and your family. And so we definitely help you do that. Links are in the descriptions box below this evening. And then, of course, we're also located over on X, which we appreciate all of our X followers that are watching us live tonight. Thank you for watching us. Those of you watching over on Facebook, thank you. And, of course, on Rumble. Good to have you with us this evening. And, of course, you can follow us over on Rumble, Patreon, X, here on Daily Excellence, and our backup channel, DE Studios, which we will have a live or a premiere tonight from Mike from Council of Time at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Our moderators will be there to welcome you guys in there. So that'll be happening over in DE Studios. So make sure you get to be a part of that. All links are in the descriptions box below, and you can check us out there. All right. We'll be right back with you. We're going to do our quick commercial from EMP Shield, and we'll be right back with you guys in just a moment.
With over 37 models that can be used around the world, our family of EMP protection devices installs easily in minutes. Being employed this year by federal organizations and electrical companies, the EMP Shield has been tested at Keystone Compliance, a federally approved DoD testing facility. Also serving as one of the world's fastest whole home surge protection devices, working in less than 1 nanosecond, the EMP Shield will protect against electromagnetic pulses, coronal mass ejections, lightning, and all forms of power surges. Proven to withstand more than 40 EMP strikes with zero degradation, the EMP Shield is also one of the world's strongest surge protectors, capable of withstanding over 100,000 amps.
All right, guys, that is EMP Shield. And you guys can check us out or check EMP Shield out over at empshield.com. Check out their online store and their devices they have. Of course, you can use those devices to protect your home, your boat, your car, generator, anything that you have from electromagnetic pulses or lightning, things like that. You can do that. Very easy to install their devices, and if you use our promo code DAILY, you'll save $50 off of each device. And of course, anytime that you use our promo code, they in return support our channel here. So you protect your home, you get at a discount rate, and you help support us all at the same time. So it's a win-win for everyone. So thank you guys so much for doing that. All right. Let's do a quick roll call, see who's all here. We got DMar that's joined us. We got BJ Bumblebee, one of our moderators. Good to have you. Clary, good to have you on tonight with us. Stephanie Stanford, thank you for being here. We got Christienah, one of our other moderators, here with us. Good to have all of our moderators. And of course, as always, when you see them, because they do work for us, they do it of their own free will and their own free time. They don't have to be here. And so make sure you guys show them some love and thank them for helping us here on Daily Excellence and helping keep the chat room safe for everyone as well. We got Daisy Dreaming, Belinda Repose, Kanito Warrior, Randy Brim on with us, and Melody Dwight, Venus Sage. So good to have all of you guys with us tonight. And some of you guys, I think, are coming over as well from NyPrepper Channel. Welcome. We're glad to have you guys on here tonight with us. So thank you so much. We're still waiting from him. We got Sandy from Austin, Texas. Good to have you with us tonight. And so we're just waiting for NyPrepper to pop on. And there we got Paula joining us from Michigan. So good to have you with us. Always good to have people from our state joining us. Candace Kremlin from California. Good to have you with us tonight. So good to see everybody popping in. We got Katie. Thank you for being here. All right. And those of you over on Rumble, we'll see you there. Thank you so much. And yeah, so like I said, we're going to get into these conversations with NyPrepper tonight. We're going to talk about a couple of different things. One, airlines taking steps to be able to keep flying their airplanes even after the outbreak of a nuclear war. So they're already kind of preparing that something is going to take place there. And I know NyPrepper, he did a video on that a couple of hours ago over on his channel. So once we're done here, you guys can go check him out there. And of course, then Trump issues a pretty stark warning towards Iran during his speech with the Saudi prince today, and telling everyone that if Iran doesn't drop its weapons, that they're going to face maximum pressure. All right, we got NyPrepper coming on. Give me just a second here while I bring him in. There he is. Says he's in the green room. Add him. Oh, let's go right. There we go. And give me just a second here, guys. Get his volume on. All right, I think we got you on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you real good.
Okay, good. So no audio issues this time around, right? Seems like it's going good.
As long as I mute myself when you speak, yes, we're going to be real good.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So we got you here tonight. Thank you, for starters, for being here this evening and being a part of it. I know we've been trying the last couple of weeks to get you on, and we were supposed to have Steve Quell with us this evening, but he had a medical procedure on. Our medical procedure happening today, so he wasn't able to join us, but he said he will take a rain check. So we're going to try it again at a different time. Clary is saying that you're coming in loud and clear. So they can hear you pretty good, so that's good. All right, so I was just letting everybody know just a second ago before you called in, you did a video over on your channel just a couple hours ago, and I got the article about this, about how airlines are now taking steps to ensure that they can keep flying even after the outbreak of a nuclear war. You want to kind of talk to people about that one just for a second, and I'll pull the article up here.
Yeah. This is unprecedented. I mean, this is literally insurance for nuclear conflict. Obviously not for like a global nuclear war, where the US and Russia are launching thousands of warheads at each other, but a smaller nuclear conflict like Pakistan versus India, or maybe Russia using tactical nukes on Ukraine, or maybe North Korea launching tactical nukes on South Korea, or something with Iran and Israel. It only applies to smaller nuclear exchanges, not, a nuclear war between the five powers, which is US, UK, France, China, and Russia, because they're the primary, the largest. They have the largest nuclear arsenals in the world. So yeah, I mean, it just tells you how crazy the times are, that there's literally insurance policies now for airlines in case there's a nuclear conflict. Basically what they would do is there's like a risk management company that would evaluate if the nuclear conflict would have any effect on the airlines and which part of the world would be risky to fly in and which part is okay. So if, let's say, there's an India versus Pakistan nuclear exchange, the typical standard procedure is that all planes would be grounded worldwide if any nuke goes off anywhere. So basically the airline industry is saying, wait a minute, what if it's a small tactical nuke in India, which is very small, smaller than Hiroshima, doesn't have any effects on planes in North America or South America or Australia. So that's basically, the motivation behind it. And what's really disturbing is that they say that already 100 out of 500 airlines have signed up for this insurance. So that's 20% of airlines worldwide have already signed up for it, which is just absolutely crazy, So it's just another sign of the times that, at any moment something huge could go down. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at the article here, and it says that before they put these new regulations or steps into place, the current ruling, which was done in 1950, basically grounded all aircraft during times of war, civil unrest, things like that. And now those things are being lifted. Apparently what's, with everything that we've got going on, apparently the Pakistani conflict is what's gotten everybody up in arms and has kind of, I guess, pushed the airports and aviation companies over the edge to make this decision. Of course, the article here, this article here is basically really focusing in on the war between Pakistan and India. It's saying that India is estimated to possess around 160 to 170 nuclear warheads, while Pakistan has approximately 170 warheads, including tactical nuclear weapons like the Nasar missile, designed for battlefield use. And so they're definitely updating their insurance policies, and they're going to do what they can to keep these planes in the air in the event. And it sounds like, from what we're talking about here, it sounds like they're planning on that particular scenario actually taking place. Like, it's actually, stating and planning, like, we know this is going to happen. We've got to figure out how to do life while this is happening.
Exactly.
And so it's no longer the idea, but it's now the actual planning that, hey, this is really going to take place. Everything is there. So it is interesting. I mean, I don't know about you, but I personally would not want to be in the air in the event of any of these kinds of things taking place. That may be like the worst thing to do, maybe, is to be there. But this is a good segue too, Speaking of India and Pakistan, that thing kind of launched last Tuesday, a week ago from today. We've seen supposedly there's been a ceasefire brokered, I guess, by Trump for a moment. Whether that ceasefire holds or not will be determined. But both sides seem to be ratcheting up, preparing. I think that's basically what they're just using the ceasefire to do, is really to kind of clean up and prepare for the next steps, because both seem to be very eager to go after one another.
Yep.
Kind of interesting is, nobody was really watching these guys. I mean, it's not uncommon for these two countries to go at it. They've been doing this for decades. There's been centuries of history between these two countries where they've just not liked each other. So the idea of them going to war is not far-fetched by any means. But the timing of it is pretty interesting, because everybody was just focused on China and the tariff wars, and focused on Russia and Ukraine, and all of a sudden it all stopped. It all went away, and now we're focused on Pakistan and India. When the question is well, what's everybody else doing now, because no one's watching?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Pretty interesting there. So, what's your thoughts, concerning this new theater that's opened up in the last 7 days?
Well, from what I heard, it's the worst flare-up they've had in decades. So it was very, very bad. And from what I heard is that on Friday, Pakistan was close to using nuclear weapons. There was an emergency meeting that the Pakistani prime minister had with his nuclear war committee. This is like a committee that decides when to use nuclear weapons. So I guess in Pakistan, they can't unilaterally deploy nuclear weapons. There's like a whole committee that would have to vote on it, sort of like NATO. NATO has the same thing to deploy their nuclear weapons. They have a group of countries that would sit around and decide and vote, do we use nukes or not? And so I know a lot of Muslim countries have that. They have a little different mentality with nuclear weapons than we do because of their religion. So a lot of Muslim countries, the leaders don't have like a unilateral power to launch nukes like here in the U.S. or in Russia or China. They have to have like approval from multiple people. So Pakistan is just like Iran. It's a fundamentalist country. And so they have this committee. So before they can use nukes, they all have to vote. And they had a meeting on, I think it was Friday morning. And so basically Pakistan was debating on deploying nukes. And so that was very, very serious. And from what I heard is that apparently the White House was very concerned about it. And they got some really concerning intelligence that basically it was about to go nuclear, and that's when they went into overdrive with diplomacy. And Marco Rubio, I think, stayed up all night talking to the Pakistanis and the Indians, and they were able to work out some kind of a temporary Band-Aid, I guess you could say. I don't think it's going to hold, but it's just a Band-Aid for now to keep things from completely going nuclear. But what's interesting is right after the Pakistan-India situation, we had Putin come out and say that he wanted direct talks with Ukraine all of a sudden, which is really, really strange, And what's interesting is that Putin is actually massing a huge army for some reason. So he wants direct talks with Ukraine, but meanwhile, he's building up his army. So why is he doing that? Is that to attack Europe, the Baltics, or is that to attack Ukraine again at some point? But he's massing a lot of troops, and it's multiple sources confirming this. We had the official declaration back in I think March, I want to say, or April. Putin signed to call up another 150,000 soldiers into the Russian army. Why would he suddenly need 150,000 right before? And it was through July, so they were They wanted to conscript between May and July over 2 months, 150,000 people. So that tells me that they're planning something potentially this fall, because by the time they get called up, let's say it's July, then you're looking at another month or two of training. So you're looking at like September for whatever deployment they're going to be used in. And interestingly, in September, that's when Russia has the Zapad exercise that takes place every year. But this year, they're going to do it like right near the border of Lithuania, near the Suwalki Gap. So it's very possible that he's getting ready to invade Lithuania and close the Suwalki Gap to have a land connection to Kaliningrad. But, I would be very, very cautious with any kind of ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine. There's always an angle and a reason why these leaders do things. They may sound like, oh yeah, we really want peace. They may say that. Putin may say, let's get together and let's be friendly and all this stuff. Let's be good neighbors. But that's just all the nice talk for public consumption. But what's going on behind the scenes? Putin is a strategist, and he's shown that he can one up all of our presidents and all of our leaders. He's always one step ahead. Like we never expected Crimea. We never expected the invasion. He always catches us off guard. And so I think something with the ceasefire, I don't trust it, completely. I think there's something going on there. But interestingly, that happened right around the same time as this whole India-Pakistan thing started happening. So, and today and yesterday, we also had a large number. Actually, right now, I'm looking at my computer. We have a large number of nuclear codes that are being transmitted by the U.S. right now, this evening, this afternoon, yesterday. They usually don't do that unless something's about to happen. So, I think something big is on the horizon. All these ceasefires, first it was Israel and Iran. We thought that Trump was going to bomb Iran, and then he pulled all the B-2s out of Diego Garcia. They're already gone. Then it was, the Houthis. Now there's a ceasefire with them, ceasefire with India and Pakistan, ceasefire with Russia and Ukraine. It just seems too good to be true. Too many ceasefires in such a short period of time. I just feel like something is going on behind the scenes, and they're going to pull the rug from under us when we least expect it, So.
Yeah, it's like something's holding everything back for a particular reason, or maybe it's someone. You never know. But one of the things that I noticed as well, and I'm trying to remember where my brain was going with this, concerning Russia and the Ukraine. Going back to your statement about Putin and him massing a bunch of military on his side. I'm wondering too, is it possible that Putin's kind of expecting Zelensky, because he did agree to meet with him face to face. I wonder if he's kind of expecting a White House type of scenario where Zelensky, makes a kind of a fool out of himself. And Putin's like, well, I tried. You see how the guy acted. We're coming in. We're taking all of Ukraine. Maybe he's, banking on the fact that this guy is going to like publicly make a scene of himself. And then it's going to give Putin a green light to do whatever he wants to do, because everyone's going to see you try to work with him. I think he's kind of hoping that he's going to get the Trump treatment, so to speak.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I was thinking when you were talking about that. Speaking of Iran, and this is, this proves to your point too that you just made, that something is going on, because you can't really trust all of these deals that are going on right now. And so this proves it here. I'm going to show everybody at home that they can see this. But today, during the whole Saudi Arabia masquerade that was going on, and all the economic deals between us and them and things like that, Trump issues a warning in the middle of it all to Iran, and he tells them to drop nuclear weapons or face maximum pressure. And so basically, this was during the address in in Saudi Arabia, where Trump issues a stark warning to Iran, emphasizing that the nation faces a choice between foregoing nuclear weapons or confronting a serious consequence. Now, this was supposed to be, mind you, this was supposed to be after that these guys have made a deal together, made a ceasefire, and things are supposed to be cooling off. But now we see today a very sharp warning coming from Saudi Arabia. And the Saudis and Iranians, I don't think, get along very well, from what I understand.
No.
And to kind of do that on your adversary's soil, that's not a good thing. That doesn't look good, and it doesn't really, scream out, "Oh, unity!" Like we're trying to work things out. This, to me, in my personal opinion, looks like something went south today with this, and now we're seeing Trump begin to react, and maybe that could be why you're seeing those nuclear codes go off right now on your screen there. So. That kind of proves a little bit to what you were talking about. There's something else going on behind the scenes there, and maybe the negotiations just aren't quite working out. I mean, it's pretty hard. We got like 6 theaters around the globe right now. I mean, that's way more than World War I, World War II. Yeah, 6 theaters right now, and we got a peace deal in every single one of them. It just doesn't make sense. Something is very, very off with that. And so, speaking of Iran. In your personal opinion, do you think that these guys will comply? Do you think they'll put their nuclear arms down and, sing Kumbaya with everybody?
No, absolutely not. I mean, they've already made it clear that they don't want any deal that involves them giving away their nuclear rights. They call it their nuclear rights. So they believe that they should still be able to enrich uranium as much as they want, as long as they don't have an actual weapon. But the problem is that once you enrich the uranium, it takes a very short period of time to make the actual warhead. It's like if you have gunpowder, it doesn't take a whole lot more to make actual ammunition with that gunpowder. Same thing with nukes. Once you have that enriched uranium, that's the biggest process that takes the most time, is enriching that uranium. Once it's enriched, then they just, load it into a warhead, and then they already have ballistic missiles that, they've tested already. They've launched them at Israel 2 times already. So they have missiles. They would just attach them, and, they already have guidance systems and all that. So that's the big fear here. So no, I don't think they would abide by any treaty, and they've shown in the past that they wouldn't do that. So why would they suddenly do it now? And so, it would be pretty stupid to believe what they say,
Right. Yeah. I agree with you on that one. Definitely, I don't see Iran doing that at all. Matter of fact, we know they're not going to do it. We've seen this happen before. And I've mentioned this before. I think it was in the Obama administration where we had that deal that was worked out, and then I think inspectors were supposed to come in and make sure that they were abiding by those things, and the inspectors could never make it into the factories to do that, and so we know they're not going to. And I just, I mentioned this last time we did an interview together. It's my personal belief. I think they already got one, maybe 2, maybe 3. And if they haven't, by whatever means, been able to produce one themselves, you got Mother Russia, who's got like 11,000 of these things. Who's to say that, they didn't give him a Christmas present,
Right.
And Iran, same thing. Iran's a nuclear nation. That's their buddy. Maybe they gave him a birthday present. I mean, we don't know, but I feel like they already have one, to be that gutsy against a superpower like the United States, no matter who's in office, you got something. Okay. It's kind of like, that weak kid, in the playground all of a suddenly is acting like, very boastful and very strong. Okay, what's this kid got? All right. I mean, by himself, he can't do nothing. What's he packing?
Right.
Something has happened here.
Right.
Something has emboldened him. And that's just kind of the same thing with Iran. Something is emboldening that country to do what they're doing. And you can probably say that with a lot of these countries, not just Iran. What is it that keeps, China emboldened? What is it that keeps Russia emboldened to do what they're going to do, to defy the United States and to defy NATO, and knowing the capabilities and the technologies and even the hidden technologies that no one knows about, but yet still be that strong and defy. What is it in the background? What's the ace under the sleeve that we're not seeing, that no one knows about? That's keeping everyone emboldened, and for such a long period of time too. Like, we've been talking about this stuff for a few years now. This is nothing new. In some ways, some of this is kind of just, regurgitated information in a little bit, because this is how long we've been talking about it. But it keeps coming up and it keeps escalating to a certain extent. So, I think that's really the cusp of it all, is like, what is it that everybody knows? What is it that these people know? What do they have that we apparently don't have? Okay. There's something that we don't have that they do. And so I'm just strategizing with you as we're talking. I didn't even think about it before we got on.
Well, it's a lot of people think that actually that could be the reason why Trump was hesitant to strike Iran, because maybe the U.S. or if you look back all the way to, even Obama, I'm sure Obama had the same intelligence. That could be why none of the U.S. presidents have wanted to strike Iran, because maybe they know that they have nukes, and they know they could potentially use them. So that's why they've been making deals. Because it's a little bit bizarre to me that every American president has basically been afraid to deal with Iran. They're always looking to make deals. I thought Trump was going to buck the trend and, go in there and take out all the nuclear facilities, but it doesn't look like he wants to do that. And actually, there's a big disagreement between him and Netanyahu now over that. Netanyahu and the Israeli government are a little pissed off at Trump. First, it was with the Iran deal, because if you remember, Netanyahu visited the White House and he was going to try to get an agreement from Trump that, we're going to strike Iran. We're going to go in guns blazing. We're going to deal with them and finally take care of the Iran problem. Well, it sounded too good to be true. And sure enough, it was. And then Trump admitted that he was in the process of, working out another deal with Iran while Netanyahu was there. And he didn't tell the Israelis about it. So that pissed off Netanyahu. And then if that wasn't bad enough, then you had the Houthi situation, which, by the way, the Houthis launched 2 missiles at Israel today, and Trump was supposed to have a deal with them. And so Israel was pissed off about that, because the ceasefire deal with the Houthis does not include Israel. It's only between the U.S. and the Houthis, U.S. ships, U.S. assets in the region, and international shipping lanes, but it does not include Israel. So the Houthis can still strike Israel, and the U.S. will not get involved, basically, because of that ceasefire deal. So that's another thing that, pissed off the Israelis and Netanyahu. And then, so it's not looking too good, and then now the B-52s are leaving Diego Garcia. So, of course, Trump, he likes to change his mind a lot. So maybe tomorrow he'll decide to strike Iran. Who knows? It's hard to say. It's hard to say with him, because he changes his mind a lot. But those 2 things right there, I think, basically cemented in the Israeli mindset of the Israeli government that, they can't rely on the U.S., whether it's Trump, whether it's Biden, whether it's Obama, Bush, none of them. Israel feels like, we can work with them and see how it goes, but we should never be like 100% reliant on America for our defense. And even Netanyahu said that we have to reduce our reliance on American aid. So, from what I've read is that Netanyahu, I mean, he actually even said himself that we will strike Iran regardless of what ceasefire deal Trump works out with the Iranians. So even if Witkoff and Rubio and they do a whole bunch of butt kissing and they finally get Iran to agree to something, Israel said that they could still strike. They don't care about what we have, what deal we have with Iran. It doesn't matter to Israel, so because that's a life or death situation for Israel. Iran is life or death. They cannot allow. That would be like if Mexico started building nuclear weapons, just to give us, kind of the way that they feel. But except imagine if we were the size of Mexico and Mexico was the size of us, because Iran is so much bigger than Israel and they're right next to each other. So it would be like, your neighbor starts building up nukes and they're saying all this crazy stuff that they want to wipe out, your country. They want to destroy Israel, and that the Holy Land belongs to the Muslim people, and they're gonna take it upon themselves to essentially cleanse the Holy Land of Jews and populate it with Muslims. That's what the Iranian government wants to do. That's why they're building up those nukes. That's a disaster, and so that's like the worst case scenario. But even if they don't do that, still them having nukes, that they're going to have so much leverage if they have a well-developed nuclear program. It's going to be like North Korea or Russia, where you're going to have to kiss their butt if you want anything done, because they can, nuke you essentially, so.
Yeah, it's kind of like what you were saying a minute ago, or what we were talking about a minute ago. It's like, what does everybody have under their sleeve that we don't know about, and what is it that Iran has? Why is it that nobody's been able to stand up to these guys and do what they say they're going to do? And obviously, the tide has changed. The tune has changed, and we're, for whatever reason, we're like, okay, Israel, we can't help you with this. Like, there's something going on here that you don't know about.
Right.
That's happening, and so we're going to have to backtrack on some things here. And I think you're right. Israel, at some point, I do believe Israel is going to go and take out those sites by themselves. And I think once that happens, we're really going to see, we might get a glimpse of what's underneath the sleeve, what ace they're holding. And we're going to get a glimpse of what's really taking place. And it's not going to be good for anybody. Like, this is going to be a disaster for the entire world when this takes place. Because it's going to force the hand of every government and everyone. And it really goes with Bible prophecy when you think about it, because we see that in the last days, Christ tells us, the Bible tells us that he's going to purposely make Jerusalem, a trembling cup. This is going to be a thorn in everyone's side. That's basically what that means, is that Israel is going to become a thorn in the side of all countries in the last days. So if you think about it, and let's say Israel goes after Iran, takes out all their nuclear sites, hypothetically, we're speaking, of course, tonight for algorithm purposes. But if he does that, if they do that, then Israel just became a problem for everyone. All countries. I mean, this is going to be a big deal, and I think it's a real potential possibility that this may happen. Whether it's in the next, couple of days, weeks, months, maybe next year, but I think it really will happen, especially if they feel isolated and alone and nobody's going to back them up.
Right.
Which, the United States supposed to be their closest ally on the planet, and now we're backing off. And usually when you're, when you're alone and by yourself, then it's kind of like, well, the restraints are off. We're going to do what we want anyway, because we got no one coming to our aid. And if no one's going to do it, then it's up to us. We have to do it. That could be the attitude of the regime over there. So, speaking of Trump, and I'm pretty sure this is not making Israel very happy either. But we have this going on today that we alluded to. But of course, Trump calls on Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords and recognizing Israel. Now, we've seen in the past Saudi Arabia not exactly enjoy having Israel around. and not exactly being their best friend. It's also been theorized, too, that Saudi Arabia may not be the best country to, sort of speak, trust. I believe I believe it was Mike from Council of Time even talked about this, stating that these guys could turn around and stab us in the back, potentially. So, but
Well, they're
anyway,
all about themselves, so
yeah,
and they have all the oil and everything. So, I wanted to just quickly backtrack on Israel being backed into a corner. I want to mention something important.
go ahead.
Think about like you know Netanyahu and put yourself in his shoes. Um, you had to deal with Biden for several years, and Biden, while he wasn't like anti-Israel, he withheld some weapons because he was afraid Israel was going to use them against Gaza. He was kind of hesitant to strike Iran, just like Trump is now. He was hesitant to deal with the Houthis, and he didn't really deal with the proxies and all that. But you dealt with Biden for several years, and then before that, you dealt with Obama. And now you're thinking, wow, we finally got Trump, based on what he said on the campaign trail. It made it seem like, yeah, he's going to go in and take out the nuclear sites. And yeah, Trump's the guy, we're going to be able to count on him. America's our best ally. We can trust Trump. And now Trump is basically posturing himself the same way Biden and Obama did, And so if you're Netanyahu, you're like, you know what? This is the best it's going to get. Trump, as far as American relations with Israel, Trump is basically the best it's going to get, because if there's another Democrat, it'll probably be as bad or worse than Trump, right? So if Trump is the best case scenario, and even under the best case scenario, you're still not getting what you want, which is strikes on Iran, denuclearization, and that. I think Netanyahu is basically feeling like, you know what, this is it. We gave diplomacy a chance. We waited for the Americans. We were patient under Obama, under Biden, and now Trump is doing the same thing. We can't keep waiting, and so unless Trump changes his mind, or there's some very serious clauses in this deal that involve, actual dismantling of their nuclear reactors and monitoring of that and oversight, Israel's not going to go for that, because they've already said they're not going to accept any deal that doesn't involve complete dismantlement and full oversight. And the Iranians said, well, we don't even want to go back to the Obama deal, because they said the Obama deal was too aggressive because it called for oversight and inspections and limits to how much they can enrich. They don't want that. They don't want any caps on their enrichment. They don't want any dismantlement, and they don't want oversight. So what kind of deal is this? Is it a promise, basically just like a promise ring from Iran? Hey, we're not going to build nukes. Just trust us, and that's the deal. What kind of deal is that? So Israel's really going to get backed into a corner by all this if Trump doesn't, if he goes through with this deal. It's going to back them into a corner. And I wanted to mention something important that I heard like a week or two ago. Was that some of the high officials in the Israeli government were basically telling the American government that now is the opportunity to strike, and if we don't strike now, the window's going to close. It's not going to be forever. Israel's not going to have years to strike. We're not talking about Iran being at such an infantile stage with their nukes that they have so much time. That time is not on Israel's side. Okay, Iran already has a sophisticated missile program. They already have highly enriched uranium. So the window's closing. So I think what Israel's basically doing now is they're basically just waiting to see what happens with Iran and the U.S. and what deal comes out of it. They're not going to make any moves until Trump finally decides what he wants to do. And then they're going to make a move after, depending on, what he agrees to. So, I would take this very, very seriously, because this is life or death for Israel, but just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because they say that the Obama administration, that their deal was too strict because they didn't let those guys in anyway. I mean,
Right.
and even if they sign on to back to that deal that was in the early 2000s with Obama, they're still not going to let them in.
Right.
They're not going to comply regardless.
Right.
So, and I
Right.
think we all know that. But they're definitely backed into a corner, and we're looking at Jerusalem just being a cup of trembling, and Israel just becoming a thorn in everybody's side. And this is what's going to happen according to end time prophecy, and we are definitely in that season of that taking place. And you mentioned that you had heard a couple of weeks ago that they were telling. Israeli government's telling U.S. government this is the time to do that, and I've heard it said, and I believe this was, I think it was also from Mike from Council Time talked about this over on his ministry and broadcast. But whenever there's only certain times of year when a country when they're considering when launching a nuke or using nuclear type of weapons, or maybe even going after somebody's nuclear facility. For the sake of fallout anywhere, there's only certain times of year that you can safely do that because of the trade winds. And so it was possible that maybe during that period of time that the trade winds were at the right place, right time, that if they struck those sites, it would carry that off and away from maybe Israel or some of the allies or anything like that. And so, that's probably why they were saying, hey, if we're going to do this now, let's do it, because the atmospheric conditions are conducive to do that. Unlike, Pakistan and India, where they were not worried about atmospheric conditions, they were just ready to go at it. So, which is scary that they weren't taking that into consideration, and especially if you're a country around that area. These guys are just going to do it no matter what the climate is at the time. So.
I wanted to mention something real quick about Pakistan and India. I did an update on this a couple of days ago, something very interesting. So in 2019, there was a study done about the effects of a nuclear war between Pakistan and India. And they said that global temperatures would drop by like 2 to 5 degrees centigrade, which is like 4 to 9 degrees Fahrenheit. So it would cause crop failures and a global drop in precipitation by like 15 to 30%. So there would be droughts. It would be colder, basically be similar to like a volcanic winter, But what was interesting is they did the study in 2019, and in their simulation, the nuclear war happened in 2025. So I thought that was pretty weird. It kind of reminded me of COVID, when they had that, what was that exercise they did? The coronavirus.
Was it J-Helm?
No. It was, they did a tabletop exercise, like I want to say 2 or 3 years. I think it was 2016. They did like a tabletop about a coronavirus outbreak in the world and how governments would respond to it. And it was like 3 or 4 years before COVID. And then now we have the same thing with this exercise about Pakistan and India. So I just thought that was pretty funny, the timing, 2025.
Yeah, that reminds me too. I think around that time they did a movie and a documentary called The Virus, just like 3 or 4 years before COVID. And everything that you saw, all the procedures and everything that they did in that movie and in the document, they actually did it in real life years later. So, pretty fun stuff there. But there we go. Going back to Saudi Arabia here. Of course, we got Trump is talking about he wants Saudi Arabia to be part of the Abraham Accords and recognize Israel, which it would be interesting if they'd pull that off. They met today to broker some deals. I think we're going to, I forgot, it's the biggest arms deal that we made with Saudi Arabia. It's the biggest arms deal in U.S. history that was made with them. We're going to sell them like tons of weaponry from the United States, tons of tech and technology from us to them. And in return, they're investing like $600 billion into the U.S. economy. So it was a huge, huge deal that was brokered today between the United States and the Saudi prince. I'm watching this thing happen today. I was at Planet Fitness and I'm just on the treadmill, and I'm watching the screen and I'm watching these two, and I got this bad feeling, man. It just doesn't settle right with me at all. What's taking place, and I have a problem with our weapons being yet again sold to another country, and this being like the largest deployment and delivery of weapons in our U.S. history, going over there to a country that, in my personal opinion, will probably stab us in the back with those same weapons. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, just look at Pakistan. We gave Pakistan F-16s during the War on Terror. So Pakistan actually has our fighter jets, I agree. We shouldn't be giving all these countries our best weapons. Turkey wants our F-35s now. There's another country that wanted F-35s. I can't remember the name. It's getting out of control. Yeah, we have to really scrutinize, who's our most loyal ally that we know has withstood the test of time, that we can really trust on a rainy day. Don't just give them out, willy-nilly to the highest bidder, and I understand Trump is a businessman and he's looking at it from a business perspective, that it's going to make us money, that we're going to be making some money off of this sale and it's going to give us jobs, there's benefits to it, obviously. I mean, anytime they do a big weapons sale like that, they have to build all those weapons. So, you're talking thousands and thousands of people involved in, designing it, producing it, maintaining it, shipping it. So it does create a lot of jobs. It's good for our economy, and, we're in a deficit. I understand that, but, it is very risky. I totally agree with you. What's interesting is Saudi Arabia I believe, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're a player in the end times, and I don't know if they're an ally of Israel during like Magog, but Saudi Arabia is not really mentioned a whole lot in the Bible, which is pretty interesting as far as like end times prophecy goes. Like, we know Iran's involved, we know potentially Russia, Turkey. Some of the countries are clearly spelled out, like Libya. But Saudi Arabia is kind of more, it's kind of more unknown what their role is going to be, before tribulation, during tribulation. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, or if you know anything more. You probably know more than I do about that. But
I think, for starters, and if somebody out there wants to, fact check me, I'm asking to be fact checked. I believe Saudi Arabia is part of the BRICS nations.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think they are, or they're in that pack with the BRICS nations, which would put them with, if I'm correct, I'm not 100% sure, but if they are, that would be with Iran and Russia and China. I mean, I don't know.
That would put them with the Magog Alliance and the Kings of the East and all that.
Yeah, it's been theorized. Saudi Arabia is not exactly mentioned directly in end times, just like the United States is not mentioned. A lot of countries are not mentioned. You really just have, at some point, the nations of the world will come against Israel at the very last moment, which would be everybody, including us. I mean, eventually we're going to turn against Israel and go after them.
Well, if you think about it, we kind of already have turned on them. I mean, maybe not directly attacking them and stuff, but our foreign policy has kind of turned on Israel in the sense that we don't unconditionally support them like we should. we place conditions, we pick and choose when to support them and when not to. So in a way, we're already like halfway there, right?
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I was listening to a broadcast earlier today from Council of Time from Mike, and he was talking about this. When we look at end times prophecy, I'm going to go down a little bit of a rabbit trail that I'm going to come right back to you. When we look at end times prophecy, we think that something bad happens to the United States, which is why we're not mentioned, especially when the nations come against Israel and Israel is trampled underfoot. We know this is going to happen. Israel is going to be attacked, and Israel is going to go through some very bad times. They're going to be trampled on. Okay, they won't be destroyed. Right. They're not going to be taken out, but they're going to be trampled upon. And the United States is not going to be there to help them. The question is why is the United States not going to be there? Is it because we're dealing with civil unrest here? Is it because we're dealing with nuclear fallout? Or is it simply because Israel has changed its policies and the United States can no longer go with those policies, so we've joined everybody else? Which, when you start looking at what's happened in the last 48 hours, you can kind of start seeing some of that unfold over there. So is it because we're no longer got economy over here, or we've been destroyed? It's possible that, it could be business as usual here in the U.S. It's just that we can no longer support the direction that Israel is going, and so now we've joined the rest of the world and going against them. So it's it could be simple, something simple as that. And when you start looking at what Trump's done in the last 48 hours, and we're not, because I can already see some of the comments coming later on, we're not hating on Trump. Thank you, Tracy. She said, according to Google, Saudi Arabia did not join BRICS. Okay, so I wasn't sure if I was right or not. So no, they're not a BRICS nation. All right, thank you. But when we look at what Trump's done in the last 48 hours, and we're not trashing Trump, we're not anti-MAGA people or anything like that. We're observers. We're watching what's going on.
I want to just make a quick comment, because I get a lot of people that say, "Oh, you bash Trump." Well, bashing and criticizing are two separate things. If somebody's wrong, or I disagree with somebody, or I think they're wrong, that's not bashing somebody. That's called disagreeing. Okay. As far as I know, we still have a First Amendment, and bashing is if you dedicate a whole show and you go out of your way, to throw someone under the bus. This has nothing to do with bashing. It has to do with when you see something that you're not okay with, or something you disagree with, you have every right to point it out. Nobody's perfect. Only God is perfect, right? So we're just pointing these things out. We're not bashing anybody. So just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, we're not anti-America or anything like that. We both support America, so we're good. Don't worry about it. But we just like you said, we see things. We're watching, and we see things are changing, and we're going to bring that out. Okay. They're saying online that Saudi Arabia is not part of BRICS nations. However, they have been invited to become part of the BRICS nations. So will be something to watch. Kosha says constructive criticism, right? So
right.
right. So anyway, and I think that's what we're looking at these last 48 hours, as we're talking about, is things are changing. The attitude is changing. We're not quite on board with the initiative that they're wanting to do, especially, as we talked about earlier on the broadcast here, which of those of you that are just coming on, you'll have to go back and look at that. If they're wanting to take out Iran, well, we possibly know what they have and why we shouldn't do it. And so it's not, it may not be a good idea to do that. So the attitudes are changing. So you can kind of see things develop as to why, instead of the United States not defending Israel, when that time comes, it may be possible that either we have stepped back completely because of the administrative changes that took place over in Israel, and we can't be a part of it, or we might actually be there with them. Not Israel, but be with the people coming in. And so it's an interesting take. And that's what Mike over at COT was kind of talking about today, not stating that this will happen, but it was, kind of a thought of like, this is another avenue to potentially look at that nobody who looks at prophecy is taking into consideration. But you can see this thing kind of forming as we look at that. And so there is that aspect when you look at end times prophecy. But as for Saudi Arabia, I've heard rumors, concerning Saudi Arabia. They're like the wealthiest country, one of the wealthy countries over there right now. But I've heard that that they've got some enemies, and theoretically Saudi Arabia could be wiped off the map by one of them. Especially if you've got the reputation that you do, to not stick to your deals or anything like that. I've heard that. Like I said, it's all conjecture right now. There's no fact base on that statement. So,
it's really interesting that we're suddenly arming up Saudi Arabia to the teeth. Think about what's in Saudi Arabia. That's where we have a lot of our oil supply. And so I think Trump maybe is thinking, okay, Saudi Arabia, we should get closer to them because they're kind of an okay country. They're not, like Iran or Pakistan or some, they're not led by these crazy individuals. But I think he's thinking, okay, let's get closer to the Saudis so we can get their oil, and then we'll arm them to the teeth so they can defend themselves if Iran decides to strike them. It's just a little bit bizarre that we would suddenly decide to arm Saudi Arabia in the midst of all this talk with Iran, like right now, it just makes me wonder if someone's about to go into Iran and they're concerned about a retaliation on Saudi Arabia, because they did that a couple of years back. If you remember, they launched some missiles into Saudi Arabia one time. I think that was, I want to say, after the Soleimani assassination. I think it was after that. I think they retaliated, and momentarily they shut down like 50% of the refineries in Saudi Arabia. And that was just like a little missile attack. So if Iran, did something like they did to Israel last year on Saudi Arabia, but even bigger, that could be a real problem for us. So I think potentially that's what they're trying to do, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
And it could be too, it may not be so much the oil, but the Saudi prince over there wants to build a Trump Tower in Saudi Arabia. Yeah.
That's funny.
It's actually not a joke. They really want to build one. So,
well, speaking of towers, what's your thoughts? I wanted to ask you this for a while, actually. I found it really interesting when that whole thing was happening with Gaza and Trump going in and building the casinos, and then there was like a statue of him in Gaza. It kind of reminded me a little bit of like the abomination of desolation almost, like this guy coming in and putting a statue in the Middle East, like, look at me, I'm the savior. It's a little weird.
It would definitely make certain people think that he could be the Antichrist.
Yeah.
But he's not.
Yeah.
But when you see that, I can see why people would be concerned. But when it comes to the Middle East, and I've talked about this on here a few times, when it comes to Gaza and Israel, I do believe Israel will take over all of Gaza, and that's going to be part of that thorn in the side business I was talking about. But I do believe that they will assume all of Gaza. And there is a deal between Israel and the United States and probably the Abraham Accords, which could be a reason why, Saudi Arabia might join the Abraham Accords, not so much to recognize Israel, but to be a part of what's about to happen in that part of the world. It's under my personal, and this is just my personal opinion on this. I don't have any facts to back this up, but it's under my personal opinion that they're going to rebuild Gaza. You were talking about, building casinos and things like that. But there's been plans there for quite a while, for years now, to really redevelop the West Bank and to redevelop Gaza, to build airports, hotels, casinos, resorts, make it the new business capital of the Middle East. And in my personal opinion, I think what we're witnessing is the rebuilding of the modern day Babylon. I know a lot of people think the United States is modern day Babylon, that we're the horror of Babylon or whatever it is. I disagree with that theology. I think that this what they're doing here in Gaza and the West Bank will be the new Babylon. I think that once it's built, this is where we'll see the man of perdition, the Antichrist, will have his headquarters, his main office in this area, because for him, it'll be like his own personal Jerusalem. Of course, his sights will be on Jerusalem when the new temple gets built. And don't be surprised, and this is, like I said, this is just my personal opinion, okay? If we don't see both Gaza, the new Babylon being built in Gaza, and the third temple in Jerusalem both being built at the exact same time. So that's
makes a lot of sense.
That's just my personal thought on this. So like I said, I don't have any facts to back it up. I'm an observer. I'm just watching. I know scripture, especially when it comes to end times eschatology, and I'm just looking at it and I'm like, see Babylon's rising out in the desert. So,
I totally agree. Yep, I totally agree. And I mean, we already have like Dubai, which is becoming like a Babylon also, with their big towers, and everybody goes there to do different kind of business deals and stuff. So yeah, I agree.
And it's important to note too, just for historical purposes, the original Babylon was in Iraq. Okay. But we're talking about the new Babylon, okay? And this, and I think the Bible uses this as a symbolism. I don't even know if this is going to be called Babylon, okay? It could be a city, could be called something completely different, But that's just my personal opinion on that. So, let's see. I think we've got time to maybe hit up one more before we go tonight. We haven't talked about China.
That's right.
We haven't talked about China tonight. So, and honestly, I haven't really paid much attention to those guys in the last couple of weeks. Obviously, they still want to take Taiwan. They may even feel more emboldened to take it now, since they, have backed off from the news circuit, other than the tariffs, it's, there's still that little tariff stuff going on. It is kind of interesting though to see Xi Jinping, make a deal with Trump, but then behind Trump's back, he's going to like Latin America. He's going to all these countries, man. And he's just bashing the United States left and right. Like, yep. I don't think, I hope Trump sees, he's art of the deal kind of guy. I hope he sees past this, but I don't think you could trust, China as much as you can trust the Saudis at this point.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It seems like we're doing some more butt kissing over there, like we did with Putin and Iran, and now we're doing it with China as well. I think China knows that they have some power over us. They have some leverage, Xi Jinping knows that he's not Putin. He's not Iran. China's economy is really solid. I would say their economy is more solid than ours right now. Even though our economy is larger, they don't have all the debt. They're not, outsourcing everything like we are. Fundamentally, their economy is in a better position. It's not as big as ours, but in 10 or 20 years, it easily could be, if they continue the track they're going, So I think they know that. And so that's why I think those tariffs that, Trump was threatening, those 200% tariffs or whatever, it just made us look really stupid, in my opinion, because it's like Trump made a fool of himself essentially by threatening, and then he backed away after a couple of days when he realized, oh, wait a minute, that would be like shooting ourselves in the foot if we did that, and it backfired so much and made us look really stupid, just made us look so weak, and exposed our weakness to the whole world. But yeah, I find it very interesting that there's this talk of a reset as well, that, Trump wants to do a reset in relations. And we've heard them use that word a lot in the past, reset, which could mean like a global economic reset, or the Great Reset, which we've heard about before. So I don't think the elites have given up on the Great Reset and the economic reset, which would bring in the one world currency. And I think also at the end of the day, we have to remember that all these leaders are all, not all, but like probably 90% are part of the Illuminati, the Bilderbergs, the Masons. And at the end of the day, it sounds crazy, but they're probably, a lot of them are friends with each other. I mean, like Putin, for example, he was going to the WEF meetings every single year up until a couple of years ago. He was Klaus Schwab's protege. Klaus Schwab was training him to be the next big global leader. And then after he was done training Putin, he trained Macron and Trudeau. So Putin went to the same school of young global leaders as Macron and Trudeau. So what does that tell you, Is Putin really who people think he is, or is he just another puppet for the New World Order? It kind of makes you wonder sometimes. So yeah, but China, I think they have a very strong economy, and we're not in a position to push them around. The only thing I think what we should do is shut our mouths, stop talking all this stuff that we're not going to follow through on, because it makes us look like a chihuahua, that nobody's afraid of. Shut our mouths, focus on building our economy, and let China screw themselves by going after Taiwan in a couple of years, and let them have their Ukraine, and let them deplete themselves in Taiwan, and we just sit back and let them destroy themselves, rather than running our mouths and just looking like a chihuahua,
Yeah, it's kind of like, you're talking about the leaders all kind of, probably getting along in the behind the scenes. It kind of reminds me of like opposing lawyers, I remember, talking to a lawyer one time, and they say, oh yeah, in the courtroom, it'll be cutthroat, we'll go after each other as hard as possible. And it says as soon as the case is done, and then the doors are closed, we're out getting drinks and having, we'll have dinner with each other. We'll have dinner before depositions and after depositions. He said, behind closed doors, he said, we're best friends. He said, oftentimes lawyers that oppose each other, they look like enemies in the courtroom, but they're best friends around the golf course, and I tend to think that, politics is probably the same way, leadership and governments and all this stuff, it's on on a national stage, it looks like one thing, but behind the scenes, everybody's probably in on it together. So, but that's about all the time I have for this evening. But I do thank you so much for coming on tonight and just spitballing with me and kind of giving an update on all this stuff that's going on. It seems like each week it's something different. And something unique, and another fly that's added to the ointment, and it's like a pressure cooker right now, man. We're just waiting for this thing to pop, and then maybe we'll one of these days get the full story of what's really going on. But until then, we'll just stay on top of it, and we'll keep doing what we've been doing. For those of you that are on here tonight, if you haven't had a chance to do so, just go over and check out NyPrepper, his channel over there. He keeps up with all the flight patterns and nuclear codes and all the updates that go on from all these different theaters on a global perspective. That's what he does over there. So you can keep track of all those things. And like we said, we anticipated having Stephen Quell with us tonight, but he wasn't able to do that. But we will work on trying to get him back over here, and so he could be a part of this discussion, because I would have loved his input on what we talked about tonight. And I'm sure eventually we will be able to get to do that. So that being said, everyone, have a great evening. God bless you all. Thank you so much once again for being here. Remember, on DE Studios, in about 45 minutes, we'll have Mike from COT Premiere going on over there. We'll be live with you guys tomorrow night for Pastor Talk here on Daily Excellence at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time with myself and my wife. We'll have devotionals and a time of discussion, and of course on prayer with you guys online with all your needs and things like that. And so please make sure you join us for that. That being said, everyone, God bless you. Check out all of our links in the descriptions below for us here on Daily Excellence and for NyPrepper. Everything is there that you'll need. And that's all I have for you. So thank you guys. Have a great rest of your evening and great week. Remember, you may be the only Jesus someone sees this week. So please keep a smile on your face. Good night, everyone.